Hi, I'm Dylan. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but some things need to be said. 6 years ago, I was just a normal 15-year-old living with my dad after my parents' divorce. Mom had moved to another state for work, and while we talked every week, Dad was my constant. Or so I thought. I was sitting at our kitchen table working on algebra homework when Dad came in looking oddly nervous. He pulled out the chair across from me, the legs scraping loudly against the tile. "Hey, kiddo. Got a minute to talk?" he asked, drumming his fingers on the table. "Sure. What's up?" I closed my textbook, noticing how he couldn't quite meet my eyes. "You know I've been seeing Melissa for a while now." I nodded. "Yeah, for like 8 months, right?" "Almost 9," he corrected with a small smile. "Well, I've been thinking. We want to take things to the next level." "You're getting married?" I asked, my voice rising slightly. He nodded, his face breaking into a wide grin. "She said yes last night. But that's not all. We're moving in together. Into her house." My stomach dropped. "Oh, when?" "Next month. It's a big change, but you'll love her place. It's got that pool you like and— Dad, her house is 40 minutes away from here. What about my school? My friends?" He fidgeted with his watch, that nervous tell I'd come to recognize. "About that? We think it might be best if you finish out the school year with your mom." "Mom? In Colorado?" My voice cracked. "But I'm in the middle of sophomore year." "It's only temporary, Dylan. Just until we get settled. Melissa's kids are having a hard time with all these changes, and they need stability right now." The conversation continued, but I was already feeling numb. That night, I called my best friend Ava. "He's shipping me off to Mom's," I told her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Says it's just until they get settled, whatever that means." "That's messed up," Ava replied. "What about all your activities here? The newspaper? Drama club?" "Apparently those don't matter compared to his new ready-made family." I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Did he actually say that? Not in those words, but he might as well have. I sighed. He kept talking about how Melissa's kids need stability, and this is a difficult adjustment for them. "What about your adjustment?" Ava asked indignantly. I asked him that. You know what he said? He said— My voice caught. He said, "They need me more than you do right now, Dylan. You're stronger." "That's so unfair! You're his actual daughter!" "It gets worse," I said, lying back on my bed. "I overheard him on the phone with Aunt Sarah yesterday. She must have been questioning him about sending me away because he got all defensive and said, 'Melissa's kids have to be my priority now. They're more important at this moment.'" There was silence on the other end of the line. "Ava? You there?" "Yeah," she replied, her voice tight with anger. "I just can't believe he actually said that. More important? Who says that about their own kid?" "My dad, apparently." I felt tears welling up. The worst part is, I don't even think he realizes what he's doing. He's so caught up in his new life that he can't see he's throwing away his old one. What are you going to do? What choice do I have? I'm going to Colorado next week. Dad's already bought the plane ticket. What I didn't tell Ava was what I overheard later that night, a conversation that would haunt me for years. "Sarah, I can't deal with her teen drama right now," Dad had said, voice low. "Dylan will be fine with Diane. This is my chance at a real family. One that actually works. A real family. As if the 15 years with me hadn't been real enough." 6 years passed. I stayed with Mom through high school and college, building a life far away from Dad and his real family. We spoke occasionally, stilted birthday calls and generic Christmas cards, but the relationship was a shell of what it had been. After graduation, I moved back to my hometown for a job at a marketing firm. I hadn't told Dad I was back. I wasn't sure I wanted to. "You should talk to him," Mom urged during one of our weekly calls. "Not for his sake, but for yours. Get answers." "What's the point?" I asked, unpacking boxes in my new apartment. "He made his choice years ago." "People change, Dylan. Maybe he regrets what happened." I snorted. "That would require him to admit he did something wrong in the first place." Mom sighed. "Just think about it. Closure can be healing. That conversation planted a seed. Maybe I did need answers. The next day, I called my Aunt Sarah. "Dylan, what a wonderful surprise!" she exclaimed. "How are you, sweetheart?" "I'm good, Aunt Sarah. Actually, I moved back to town." "That's wonderful news. Does your father know?" "No," I admitted. "That's kind of why I'm calling. I wanted to ask, what happened back then? From your perspective?" A pause. "Oh, honey, that's a loaded question. I need to know. He told me his stepkids were more important than me. Was that really how he felt?" Sarah's voice softened. "Your father was infatuated with Melissa, with the idea of this perfect blended family. He convinced himself sending you to your mother was temporary. But it wasn't. No. When I confronted him about it, he said you were adapting well in Colorado and he didn't want to disrupt your progress." I laughed bitterly. How convenient for him. "Dylan, what he did was wrong, but people make terrible mistakes, especially when they are afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of failing again. After your mother left, he was lost. Melissa made him feel like a success again." I wasn't satisfied. The next day, I met with my old neighbor, Mr. Kaplan, who had lived next door to us for years. "Your dad changed after he met her," Mr. Kaplan said, stirring his coffee. "Started canceling your weekend plans to spend time with her kids. Remember that fishing trip you were so excited about?" I nodded. "He took her son instead. I saw you sitting on the porch that whole weekend, watching the street." He shook his head. "I should have said something." "It's not your fault." I gripped my mug tighter. "Did he ever talk about me after I left?" "Not much," Mr. Kaplan admitted. "When I asked, he'd say you were thriving with your mother, like he'd done you a favor." My third conversation was the hardest, with Jason, Melissa's oldest son, now in college. "Why did you want to meet?" he asked suspiciously across the coffee shop table. "I'm trying to understand what happened with my dad. Our dad," I corrected. Jason's face hardened. "He's not really my dad, not anymore." That surprised me. "What do you mean?" "They divorced 3 years ago. He and Mom. She cheated on him." "I didn't know," I admitted. "Yeah, well, history repeats itself, right? Mom always trades up." Jason's laugh was harsh. "For what it's worth, I never wanted him to abandon you. That was messed up. But you benefited from it," I couldn't help saying. Jason leaned forward. "Did I?" "He was so desperate to be the perfect stepfather that he never felt real. Always trying too hard, buying us stuff, never saying no. Then when things got tough with Mom, he just checked out." Sound familiar? "Too familiar," I whispered. "Look, your dad isn't a monster. He's just weak. When things get hard, he runs." "Did he ever talk about me?" Jason hesitated. "Sometimes. Usually when he was fighting with Mom. He'd say, 'Dylan would never act like this,' or 'I never had these problems with my real daughter.'" My heart twisted painfully. His real daughter, he threw away. For what it's worth, I think he regretted it, but by then it was too late to fix it. As I left the coffee shop, I checked my phone to find a text from Ava. "Have you heard? Your dad's back in the old house. Melissa got it in the divorce, but I guess she sold it back to him." My dad was living in our old house, just 3 miles from my new apartment. Suddenly, a plan began forming in my mind. A week later, the doorbell rang. I knew who it would be. I'd made sure word of my return had reached him through the neighborhood grapevine. I opened the door to find my father standing there, looking older than his 50 years. Gray had overtaken his once dark hair and new lines creased his face. "Dylan," he said, voice thick with emotion. "It's really you." "Hi, Dad." I kept my voice neutral. "Want to come in?" He stepped inside tentatively, eyes darting around my apartment. "You look great, so grown up." "That happens in 6 years." I gestured to the couch. "Have a seat." He sat, hands fidgeting in his lap. "I heard you were back. I couldn't believe it." "I moved back for work," I explained, sitting across from him. "You could have called me." "Could I?" I raised an eyebrow. The way you called me all those years? He flinched. I deserve that. I know I do. Do you know what you deserve, Dad? Because I'm not sure you do. Dylan, I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But you have to understand. No, I don't, I interrupted. I don't have to understand why my father told his sister that his stepchildren were more important than his own daughter. His face paled. I never said that. You did. To Aunt Sarah, I heard you. I didn't mean it like that. He ran a hand through his hair. I was under so much pressure. Melissa wanted— Don't blame Melissa, I cut in. You made your choices. My roommate Tara emerged from her bedroom, clearly uncomfortable at walking into our confrontation. Sorry, I can come back later, she said. No, stay, I told her. Dad was just explaining why he abandoned me. Dylan, that's not fair, Dad protested. Not fair? My voice rose. You know what's not fair? Sending your 15-year-old daughter across the country because she didn't fit into your new perfect family picture? It wasn't like that. It was supposed to be temporary. Then why didn't you ever ask me to come back? The question hung in the air. He had no answer. I waited, Dad. Every holiday, every summer break. I thought, this will be when he asks me to come home. But you never did. I thought you were happy with your mother, he mumbled. You never asked, I was shouting now. You assumed what was convenient for you. Tara touched my shoulder supportively. Dylan, do you want me to give you some space? No, I said firmly. I want a witness to this conversation. Dad's expression darkened. Is that what this is? Some kind of ambush? An ambush implies surprise. You shouldn't be surprised that your actions had consequences. I came here to reconcile, Dylan. To apologize. 6 years too late. Please, he begged. Everyone deserves a second chance. I'm your father. A title you gave up the right to claim. You can't just throw away family, he shouted, standing suddenly. You did, I shouted back. You threw away family. His face contorted with anger. You ungrateful little— After everything I sacrificed. Sacrificed? I laughed incredulously. What exactly did you sacrifice? I gave you everything growing up. A good home, opportunities. Until something better came along. I finished coldly. He stepped toward me, finger pointing accusingly. You have no idea what I went through. The divorce, trying to keep it all together. Step back right now, Tara warned, phone in hand. Or what? Dad sneered. This is between me and my daughter. You're in my apartment, threatening me, I said calmly. Leave now or Tara calls the police. This isn't over, he growled, moving toward the door. You think you can just humiliate me like this? I'll show you what happens when you disrespect your father. The door slammed behind him, leaving a ringing silence. Are you okay? Tara asked worriedly. I nodded, hands trembling. I knew he'd react that way. He always does when confronted with his failures. Should we call someone? Those sounded like threats. Yes, I said, pulling out my phone. That's exactly what they were. 3 weeks later, I sat in a courthouse with Tara and Ava. The temporary restraining order had been granted after Dad's threatening messages and workplace appearances, but today would determine if it became permanent. Are you nervous? Ava asked. Oddly, no, I replied. I feel clear. The hearing was brief. Dad's lawyer portrayed him as a heartbroken father, while my lawyer presented his threats and harassment. When I spoke, I faced the judge directly. Your Honor, 6 years ago, my father removed me from his life because I was inconvenient. Now that his new family has fallen apart, he wants me back on his terms. When I refused, he resorted to intimidation. I'm not asking for punishment, I'm asking for protection. The judge granted the permanent order. In the hallway, Dad approached, staying the legal distance away. Dylan, please, he begged. This isn't what I wanted. What did you want, Dad? A relationship with my daughter. Is that so wrong? No, but you wanted it without accountability. I've apologized. What more do you want? I don't want anything from you anymore, I said simply. For years, I wanted my dad back. I don't need that now. So that's it? I made a mistake and I lose my daughter forever? It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, made day after day for years. People change, Dylan, he pleaded. No, you haven't. When things got difficult with your new family, you ran from them too. Later that evening, my friends and I shared pizza and wine. To closure, Ava toasted. It doesn't feel like closure, I admitted. More like a beginning. Do you think you'll ever forgive him? Ava asked cautiously. Forgiveness isn't the point. Understanding is. I understand now that his failures weren't about my worth. They were about his weaknesses. So what now? Ava asked. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Everything. For the first time, my future isn't defined by waiting for someone to come back. To defining your own worth. Tara raised her glass. And to chosen family, I added, looking at my friends gratefully. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. But the best revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about healing yourself. My father said his stepchildren were more important than me and left me behind. Years later, when he knocked on my door seeking absolution, I gave him something far more valuable. The truth. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone who hurt you? What did it take for you to finally stand up for yourself? Share your story in the comments below.